All right, all right. What a glorious Tuesday we're having. 90 something degrees around the country. Todd Richards here uh, for Roots, Heart, and
So,
with Chef Stephan. We have a wonderful guest in for the podcast this evening. Not only, I don't use the term friend or brother lightly. When you do, everyone thinks they could be your friend. They could think they could be your brother, but that's absolutely not the case in this case at all. So we have Fabrice Armand here on the podcast, for the first part of the podcast. And Fabrice is a terribly busy person, so we're going to hold him only for about 15 minutes. But we're going to let Stefan fill everyone in on who Fabrice is and why is he here on RHS.
well, Fabrice is a multi-talented, supercalifragilistic young man. Let's put it this way. Um, Unbelievable knowledge in marketing, background in marketing, philanthropy. He's a passionate about Haiti. He's a passionate about food, and he is the co-founder and CEO of one of the hottest up and coming food festival around the country with 5 cities on the map right now, Creole Food Festival. And Fabrice, welcome. We're going to let you tell us a little bit about you first, and then we're going to dive right into the Creole Food Festival.
All right. Oh, thank you, gentlemen, for actually having me in your podcast. It is an honor because, again, like Todd says, you don't use the word friend and brother easily. So it's not only a privilege to be able to say that I know both of you, but it's an honor to be able to say that I actually can call you both friends and brothers. So I am Fabrice Armand, co-founder of the Creole Food Festival. We are the only food festival that connects Africa, the Caribbean, Latin America, South America, and the south of the US. And part of our mission is to create a platform where chefs of color are able to showcase their diversity, are able to showcase their talent, and are able to actually be on a platform that really appreciates the work that they are doing. Far too often, chefs of color had to work too hard to be able to gain the notoriety that they deserve, and we have chefs such as Stephan and Todd that have paved the way for others. But what our platform tries to do is really create a platform so that our chefs are able to showcase their talent.
I mean, that's a handful right there. We're just talking about the culture, and showcasing our culture to the world. But I know Stefan and I talked about this in our last episode, but I'd like to hear from you. Really, what is Creole? Because that term gets used so many different ways. But you have a festival surrounded with that title and its name. What is
Mhm.
Creole?
I think for me in particular, so that term Creole to a certain extent, and I was actually having a conversation with someone that was from New Orleans that actually put upon me that that word Creole was condescending to a certain time, so at a certain time in New Orleans, based upon the people, because he was actually referring to certain other individuals that were not from that area. So, but for me, what Creole is, it is the diaspora, it is the connection of that. It is, I always believe that culture, civilization started in Africa. So whether or not the colonizers were the British, the Portuguese, the French, or whatever it is, what they did is that our culture was spread upon throughout the certain countries that they really were able to, how can I say this, kind of like be colonizers of. And then through that experience, it created cultures that actually mesh some of these parts. And then for me, Creole is the ancestry, it's also the diaspora, it's our cooking, it's our culture, it's our music, it's all of that together. So that's why for us as the Creole Festival, we make it a point of showcasing not only the food, but listening to the music, listening to the culture, and also understanding the vibes.
Man, you said a mouthful there. What you got, Stefan?
Definitely a mouthful. Definitely a mouthful. Obviously, if we want to define Creole in its true definition or its Wikipedia definition,
Yes.
it is a mixture of the European colonists, the European colonists, with that brought the slave trade to the Americas, and all of and that the African culture and the European culture meshed together, and then they create and that's really the creation of Creole culture. But Creole culture is also a language, so don't forget. And because the Africans needed to find a way not only to be able to communicate with the masters, but also you had so many different African tribes into one location. They needed to create it. They needed to create a language where they could all speak together, and that's how the Creole language came about.
Well, I mean, it sounds fascinating. We talk about it that way. And go ahead, Fabrice. What were you going to say?
No, and to talk about that too in terms of the language, and that's why for me it's so important about educating people about Creole, because there's this misconception that Creole is only Haiti or New Orleans, and that is far from the truth, because when you think about it, whether you call it Creole, you call it Creole, you call it Criollo, you call it Criulu, you call it Garifuna, you call it Gulagichi, it's the different ways that we were able to actually talk and create our own identity. Because what we need to understand is that during that time period, is that the colonizers imposed themselves on our cultures. So therefore, what we took is that if we were influenced by the Portuguese, you created Crioulo, okay, or Criollo. If you were influenced by the French, you created Creole, or Creole. Okay, so those are the different things too. And especially if you're in the southern part, you created more of a soul, which is like in Charleston, South Carolina, you call it Gulagichi. So, and I think that it's very important to understand how, because of the colonizers, we created our own language and our own way of saying who we are and how we identify.
Wow. So let me ask this question really when it comes to, because the festival surrounds around a lot of things that are dear to all of us on here, and hopefully dear to our listeners on the podcast and also on Instagram Live here. But you talk about it in the sense of the language, and we understand food is this language. Why do you have such a diverse group of chefs come to the Creole Festival, and then what do you hope that they are showcasing when they are there?
So part of the reason why we have so many different chefs from different continents at the Creole Food Festival is also to showcase how we are connected. While we were in Africa, or certain chefs, certain Creole were in Africa, certain Creole were in the Caribbean, certain Creole were in Latin America, there is a unifying part within all of the Creoles, because when you think about it, traditional where we started off was in Africa. So whether or not we were sent to Portugal, we were sent to Latin America, we were sent to these areas, our culture still lived on. Okay, the way that generations.
We're having a little bit of a technical problem. Can you hear it, Fabrice?
I can't hear Fabrice. Fabrice, at your headset. I think we lost you there for a second.
Did I lose you
Are you here,
guys?
Fabrice?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
here.
you're back there. Okay, we got you. Yeah, we got you
Okay.
back there now.
Okay.
Let me repeat and ask the question one more time. For our
Okay.
listeners on
Yeah.
our IG Live. And the question was, really, you have such a diverse group of chefs here. From all across the diaspora, and really, what were you trying to accomplish by bringing in such a great group of chefs? Into this, and then actually, what do you want them to present to the audience that are coming to the Creole Food Fest?
Yeah. So what I wanted to do is, although they are from different continents and different areas, I wanted to showcase the similarities that exist. Okay, because originally civilization, again, and I'll say that again, began in Africa. So whether you were colonized by and you were sent to the Caribbean, Latin America, South America, or whatever it is, there were still traditions, there was still culture, there was still food practices that still translated and still move forward. So although even you were colonized by these different groups, when you see a chef from Honduras or a chef from Cuba, a chef from Senegal, Mali, when you see them together preparing food, they find commonalities and similarities that even them, they actually did not know that it existed, but they actually realized it through their way of saying. You might call something arroz con pollo, but then you call it a different way in Senegal. You call it a Julia Jonjon or Jui Cole in Haiti. So really to be able to showcase and unite what really supposedly happened from like our ancestry and still carried on. Because remember, back in the day, it was really not about books. It was about traditions being passed on from the great grandmother to the grandmother to actually to where it is right now, where we were able allowed to learn how to write and to keep our cultures.
That's so profound. You know what you're saying, Fabrice. We're going to ask you a couple more questions here quickly because we're getting a little bit of disconnect. I want to make sure that we get those questions answered. You know, before we let you go. Um,
Yep.
when you look at the total areas that you're going, you have Miami this year, uh,
Mhm.
Atlanta, this year, DC this year, and naturally where it all started, you have New York here. Which groups do you hope come? I know the answer. I know Stephan know the answer, but really, How do you want people to show up to this wonderful festival? Show up because he
Uh,
needs talented chefs.
I want every group that is interested in learning about culture, that is intrigued by food, that are foodies, that wants to be, because what I feel like what we do with the Creole Festival is that we are taking you to these countries without you taking a flight. So therefore, you will have a Garifuna chef from Honduras. You don't need to go to Honduras to have authentic Garifuna food. You don't need to go uh, Cuba to have authentic Cuban food. And that's one of the things that we are very specific to our chefs and our instructions. We want them to be as authentic to that culture as they can be. So that the people that are whichever state that we are can feel like they can experience the cultural uh, culinary of that country or that city or wherever they are from.
So
Fabrice.
before we continue to dive to do a big dive into the culture, Fabrice, what was the initial vision or the direction of? I know you've mentioned that a couple of times already, but what was the initial vision of putting this festival together? Um, and that's what and I know that it's important for not only our audience to listen to the response, but it's also important for chefs of color to also listen because I think the message is for them as well.
So the initial vision for me, there were three parts. The first part was through my work with Barbados Food and Wine, Haiti Food and Spirits. What I've learned with listening to the chefs of and all of them were great chefs of color is that they wanted for to have a platform that they can showcase their creativity and talent. Okay, that was high end and that really focused on food. A lot of the times when we do a food festival, there's always other things that are being done, whether it is knickknacks being sold, and there's no problem with that. But what I wanted to do, what I really wanted to center this food festival around food, around chefs, around restaurants, and around culture. That's the first thing. The second thing is I really wanted to create a platform where chefs of color are being able to showcase their talent and creativity. Far too many times, we have to work 5 times as hard to gain the notoriety of our white counterparts. And for me, that was important. And the third thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to actually put all of the chefs, whether you are a celebrity chef, whether you are an upcoming chef, on the same platform. The reason for that is that this is why we provide our chefs with honorarium, with a stipend, and we provide so much for them so that all that they have to do is really come and bring their talent. It doesn't matter if you're Gregory Gourdet. It doesn't matter if you're an upcoming chef. What we want to do is to showcase your talent, showcase what you have to offer, and also to showcase that you know what, that you belong because you've already done the work. Your work is enough.
So, Fabrice, we just want to ask you, where can they find out more information on the Creole Food Fest? Like, what's the IG handles? What's all those
Yeah.
handles where they can get it and get tickets, and and what's coming up next? Where are the next stops?
Great question. They can actually always find us at www.creolefoodfestival.com. It's CreoleFoodFestival.com. Or they can find us on Instagram at Creole Food Fest, which is the same way, Creole Food Fest. Also, too, we are going to be in New York, July 20th, July 21st. We're going to be in Atlanta, August 24th, August 25th. Then we're going to be in DC in October. And then we have so many other cities that we're adding. But again, some of yours truly that are part of this podcast are going to be there, are going to showcase their talent. I really hope that people support. I really hope that people come and educate themselves about Creole food. But the most important thing is come over there, enjoy yourself, smile, and also enjoy great company.
So there is a very burning question for me, and I think it's a very burning question for uh, un- anybody that entertains putting a food festival together, and that's financial support. Unfortunately, even in your sixth year in New York and your second year and third year in other cities, you are. I know that the Creole Food Festival is still struggling to find financial support within within corporate America, give you that extra boost that you need
Yeah,
to develop into a bigger festival
yeah,
where you can invite more chefs,
yeah,
where you can have 1,000, 1,500 people come to the event,
yeah.
so you can so you can so you can rent a bigger venue.
Mhm.
What is
And Stefan, it's a great question, and I think it's very important. My business partner and I really have really funded this food festival, and there were times that we thought that we had sponsors, and we did the whole 6 months. For example, for Lexus, we were speaking with Lexus, their experiential team, and so forth for 6 months. For 6 months, we got a confirmation that they were coming on board, a confirmation that they were actually going to be a sponsor for four of our cities. And a month before our food festival, they decided to say that they did not have a budget. So that's not even the only thing. There are times that we work with venues as well, and venues are saying that they want to host us, and then they pull the rug underneath us and say to us that, you know what, I don't think your crowd is good enough or is elevated enough to be there. So these are obstacles that we deal with, but I always believe when your heart is in the right place and when you believe in the mission that you're doing, God will provide and everything will be better. So my hope and dream is that this festival can get the sponsorship that it deserves so that not only do we have 14 chefs or 20, like 14 chefs at the festival, but we have 20 chefs. But most importantly, that we can create a scholarship to help up and coming chefs and people that are interested in culinary to actually support them to support their dreams as well. Unfortunately, right now, as much as we talk about diversity and inclusion, a lot of companies are taking away DEI initiatives. And for us that never had that, they always say, show us proof of concept. We've shown the proof of concept for the last 6 years. At the same time, we also have to be thankful for companies like Brown Foreman, for companies like Uncle Nearest that has looked at us, our festival, and believed in the mission and supported us. And chefs like you and Todd, who have put your name, your reputation, and have backed us to be able to showcase that no, although we might be small in terms of numbers, but we are not small in terms of might.
Fabrice, we appreciate you so much for coming on RHS Roots Heart Soul podcast. I appreciate you hosting me this weekend while I was in New York, Fancy Food Festival, and naturally hanging out with you, you guys as well. Um, so enjoy the rest of your beautiful day in New York. I'm across the river now. I'm over in Newark. Headed to the airport to see the staff there. But we appreciate you so much for hanging out with us, and talk to you soon. Stephan and I are going to hang on, keep talking to people,
All
and keep
right.
talking about the podcast and the festival.
And thank you so much, gentlemen, for actually having me, for creating this platform that interviews and gives people like me an opportunity to speak and actually to share our stories, because I think it's important that we are able to tell our narrative and not let other people tell our stories. So thank you so much. Thank you for creating it. Thank you for having the foresight, and I wish you guys continued success.
Thank you, my friend.
All right.
That's that fun, man. This is like so crazy, to really just see, this whole festival, come together, and where it started from, and where you talked about things and food and everything like that, and just inviting the chefs and seeing the chefs come down. It's just so great, to have a friend like Fabrice, in our circle and everything.
Well,
What are you cooking though? That's what. I know we can tease people about the festival and everything, but what are you cooking? That's what I
well,
want to
I've
find
been,
out.
I've been, I've been, I've been, I've been part of this. I've been part of his, of not only as a friend, but as a team member and organizer and co-organizer of this festival since we began. Fabrice was um, helped me quite a bit with the Haiti Food Festival and the Haiti Food and Wine Festival,
Hmm.
and this is how the juices, the creative juices came about for him to see how to create a platform for Black and brown chefs, minority chefs, chefs of color, to be able to not only to be invited to an event, because that gets very difficult unless unless you're on the top of the mountain. It's very difficult to get invited to some of those big food and wine festivals around the country.
Correct.
So, um, you know, for me, everything that I've done in the last 14 years, as you know, is to create opportunities, and so have you. And I have to say, you're an inspiration to me in that end as well. Um, creating opportunities for others. It's not just about me. It's about us as a community. And if every chef of color decides that, hey, you know what, I'm going to open the door for somebody else. I got this opportunity. I went to South Beach Food and Wine. I went to New York Food and Wine. I went to this and that Food and Wine. Let me see if I can open the door for another chef to swerve in and get a little bit of shine himself.
Right.
And Creole Food Festival does that, and that's why it is such an event that I support 100%. That I'm part of the groundwork, and that I continue to develop. And now,
But you said we got all that, but you still ain't answered the most important question: what are you cooking, my friend? Because
what am I
everybody,
cooking right now? Oh
no,
shit!
like over the
Listen,
festival, because
you
everybody
know,
wants
you
to
know,
know. I
you know,
want to
you know,
know.
half the time, half the time I can't figure out what I'm cooking until it's done. Half
Yeah.
the time I can't figure out what I'm cooking until it's done.
Hey,
No,
that now the competition is very very high. I
oh my
mean
god,
that is the great thing about the festival. I'm not bragging on myself, but I am going to brag on myself. I think I've been number one.
listen.
For
Listen,
so
let me put it this way to
right,
those who
right,
have never been to the Creole Food Festival
right,
and who have not seen Chef Todd in action.
yes,
Um,
one man
that
show, a one
those
man show,
smoked, those smoked duck wings, man.
right?
Those smoked duck wings in Miami.
Yeah.
Let me tell you,
Mhm.
if that's all I got to say. It-
Yeah. I mean the lamb ribs in New York. That was what? Yeah,
wow,
right.
wow.
So
I remember how much people flocked towards those lamb ribs
yeah,
in New York City 2 years ago. It was absolutely crazy. But right now, where are you right now, Chef Todd? You're
I was right there. I was in New York. There was a wonderful food show happening in New York over the Java Center, and I flew in Monday and got to hang out with Fabrice and Tico on Sunday, and we talked about the food fest, and he told me about the lineup. Like people like Whitney. Whitney and I go way back. Of course, you'll be there. So now I'm being a little bit diabolical and thinking about what I'm going to make, what I'm going to cook.
So since you asked the question, what am I cooking?
Yes, we want to know.
I know we don't want to give it away.
Right.
I know we don't want to give it away, but there is something cooking.
Okay. All right. Okay. I just want to make sure, of course this podcast is, Roots Heart and Soul, we cover a lot of topics. We know a lot of things are serious, all the time. But the joy I think that you and I have is sharing the food that we cook with everyone. And that's why I asked the question. I want to make sure that people,
I'm
people
in Orlando right now, as you know.
Right.
I'm traveling as well. And I am in the middle of reopening because the restaurant that I had open in Orlando called Callaloo, which is the French word for okra. When we opened it 7 months ago, the owners unfortunately went to do a little bit of construction without the city's approval, and the city came in and
that works. That's the Haitian way of doing it.
So the city came in and shut them down, and they've been out for 2 months. And it's just funny that the restaurant that I opened in Orlando is a celebration of Pan-African cuisine. It's a celebration of Africa to the Caribbean, and the inspiration came in from my adventure with you and putting this book together.
Yeah, I mean, the book, Roots, Heart, Soul, really sparked the podcast. But interesting enough, when you say, you develop these, this Pan-African restaurant, and I get so curious because, I am the person that goes and try to find all these similarities and things like that. But what makes that kind of restaurant different in a place like Orlando or any place in Florida,
Well, I'm going to say this. Orlando, in particular, is the third most visited city in the United States.
Right.
With over 350 million visitors from all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So you have an audience not only from the city of Orlando and its surroundings, but you have an international audience that is craving for an experience. And from what I've seen, you have our friend Chef Digby, who opened Latha not too long ago in Phoenix, Arizona, of all places.
Right.
And he is raking success. You have our friend Chef Gregory Gourdet, who opened Khan, who's a Haitian-inspired restaurant
just won a Beard Award
in Oregon, and who just won best chef
Northwest
for the Pacific Northwest. Won the James Beard Award. And then I mean I could go on and on about restaurants that are tackling this cultural phenomenon and who are raking success, whether it's in New York, whether it's in Florida, or so on. So I think that the idea is that it's a celebration of us at the end of the day. Whether you're from Haiti like me, or you're from Chicago like you, or you're from West Africa. For example, I have a recipe that that inspired me from Chef Pierre Thiam, who's from Senegal, who gifted me his book. So I have a recipe from that, from his book that I adapted, and so forth. And one of the things that I enjoy doing whenever I'm developing a menu or a restaurant is to do a lot of research.
Yeah.
And I read a lot of books, and I go to some of my friends, some of my colleagues, and I see what they're doing.
Right,
and
absolutely.
What they're doing and what's making them successful. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm doing a disservice to whoever I'm opening the restaurant for.
You bring up so many interesting points, Stephan, about the research, and I think the best chefs are the nerds of the business. those who are always studying, looking at new places, looking at new things, trying new things, never being so afraid to step out on a limb, but also know the basis of where the food comes from. What we did with RHS, with Amy Condon, was on the first episode of Roots Heart Soul podcast, and we really talk about the beginning stages of it, and then we have so many people coming, on board. Clay Williams, did the photography. Hopefully, we can get Pierre, Tom on the board, and all the people you mentioned. But the research, I think, is so important to how we, maintain, the history of the culture. But me, I'm a modernist. I see things in the modern context. I'm not afraid to put bubbles on the plate. I'm not afraid to use different techniques or sous vide and things like that in order to get it. My thing is use whatever technique that in order to make food delicious. But there's some traditional techniques like making pickles. You just can't rush that. You can't just rush pickles.
No, you
And
can't.
things like that.
No, you can't.
So giving people the time, though, and that's you're jumping in on the question I'm going to ask you, though, is about the time. How do you think that people should manage their time in the kitchen, when they're trying to create these wonderful dishes that they may not even tried or even tasted before?
So for me, I think one of the hardest techniques to master is one that begins everything that we do, right?
Mm.
It's the French word mise en place.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a word to most people, but to a chef who's running a kitchen and who is teaching a new crew how to make dishes that they've never done before,
Right.
Mise en place is probably the most crucial thing, because if you have done your mise en place, if you have done the preparations prior, then making those dishes become much easier. Then it's all about technique. So it's all about knowing how to put 2 and 2 together to make 4.
Right.
It's easy for me to say it this way, but while I'm developing these recipes in this new restaurant, I'm also learning how to be even better at preparation, at the obviously the core preparation of our food, of African food, of Haitian food, is long cooking periods.
Mm.
And how do you take those long cooking periods and make them shorter, right?
Right.
That's preparation. If you cook the goat before, then when you get on the line, it's just a matter of putting ingredients together to make a curry goat. If the curry is already made, if the goat is already prepared and marinated and cooked properly, those things are so important in order for you to take the essence, and I talk about essence a lot because you're a modernist and I tend to be very traditional.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
agree that.
I still want to take whatever food that I'm cooking and bring. I don't want to use the word authenticity, but I want to use the word that when you eat it, when you see it, it's gotta give you a feeling of taking you home.
I mean, home, man. I mean, you took me home to Haiti. I've taken you to Chicago, around that area. You know, when you talk about home, like I talk about my home all the time. Just this week I had my mother-in-law, daughter, granddaughter, cat. We got a new cat. I tell you about the cat that showed up at our house. I'll tell you about that. We had a cat just show up at the house, a dog, and I'm so regimented as a chef that nobody cooks except for me, because it's like, okay, I have 5 miles in here, including the cat and the dog, they all have to eat, and the cat gets her food, and the dog gets mad if she don't get food too. So now I got to prepare a little bit of meal for the dog, a little bit of meal for the cat, and then everyone else. But if I didn't have that training, I think what this little bit of hair I have on my head, I think I would pull my hair out,
Well, buddy, I have no more hair, as you can see.
right, right.
Okay, I have no more hair, as you can see. Mine is all gone.
But I would pull mine out, trying to organize my life, and mise en place is, mise en place, putting items in place, and things like that. And I think, when I look at the book, we started putting things in place for people, having Fabrice in there, we're really starting to line up things and put things in place. We got about 10 more minutes to hear, Stephan. We are, covering a lot of range of topics in here on this second episode of Roots Heart Soul podcast. You're in Orlando. I'm in New York and Newark today on this lovely Tuesday, 6:25. But I got a question. I got a burning question. For you that I've been wanting to ask this for. It's not really for you. It's more for the audience because I need to know why my brother Stephan is out here still single. Because
Oh Lord!
this
I
is
knew you
the
were gonna
most
throw,
greatest guy
I
I
knew you were
know.
gonna throw the brick
Hey,
at
I
me.
told you, hey, when I said we're gonna do this podcast together, there's nothing off the table, and we
I
gotta
knew you were gonna throw
understand.
the brick at me, man.
I gotta understand, like, why is my dude out here? You know, you know, in this beautiful world. So if there are any wonderful ladies out here who are looking for a great guy, my man Steph. Okay, I'm gonna stop embarrassing you, but I just had to put that
So
public
now,
service
so now you're
announcement.
playing. So now you're playing Cupid too, right?
Hey man,
Now you're
hey,
playing Cupid
Jack
too,
of all
right?
trades, brother. Jack of all
Listen,
trades,
listen,
yeah.
listen. I, I, if I knew the answer to that question, I'd be a millionaire by now.
Yeah, all right. Well, you probably a
Okay,
millionaire because you're not married.
it's a very burning question.
All right.
I think what has happened is that,
Mm,
and I think you know this more than most.
right.
Life is about balance,
Right. Absolutely.
right? It's about balancing the passion that you have for your craft, the your work ethic, but also balancing your home life.
Hmm.
Balancing your home life and making sure that everybody gets equal parts, especially your family gets a little more than equal parts to the rest of your life.
Right.
and,
Absolutely.
and that's sometimes very difficult to do,
Especially
um,
in our field, it's totally difficult. Go ahead.
especially in our field,
Right.
especially when somebody like me who's always traveling, who's always on the go, who's always on an airplane. Sometimes I have to take a step back and say, hey, uh, what if I had a partner in crime? Would my life be better? And that question comes to me all the time, man. Especially when I lay on that bed and fall asleep by my damn self.
I know, right? Yeah.
Okay? But and at 52, about to turn 52, I think it's more than time and more than it's more than about time that I finally find and God will provide.
Yeah.
Let me put it this
Absolutely.
way. I think
Won't he
God
do it?
does
Yeah.
everything. I think God does everything in timing, and
Right.
God does everything when He knows that you're ready. Um, you know, like you know what I've been through the last 2 years,
Yeah.
the last 2.5 years, but yet God has given me the energy and the mindset to not let what happened to me be a hindering on what I want to do and all the things that I want to accomplish. Um, and so I really think that God, my faith is as strong as it's ever been. And one of the reasons why is because I realized that He had me go through this trial to
Right.
test me,
Mm.
and He's given me this mountain to climb, and say, Stefan, you can climb it. You have the will and the power to climb it, but you're scared. And sometimes we get scared because something happens to us and we don't know what the hell to do. And I got scared. For this month is just a side note. This
Right.
month is mental health month. Uh,
Absolutely. You took my next topic right out of my mouth. So go ahead.
and I can tell you when my accident happened, I went into a very deep depression. And there are certain times in within this period where I thought to end it, where I said, you know what, if I can't be Chef Stephan, if I can't be, if I can't do the things that I love, that I love the most, which is cooking, and then what am I good for on this earth? And I have to say, it is friends like you, friends like Chef Jovins that you know very well,
Right.
Chef David, who's in Dominican Republic. It is friends and very close knit families of mine that kept me from going on the deep end. And sometimes you just need somebody to listen to you, but you just need somebody to say, "I got you. If you
That's it.
need me, I got you."
Yeah.
And sometimes it's very hard, especially for us men, to say, "I'm vulnerable. I'm not in the right place in my mind. I don't know what's going on with me, but I need help." It's very hard to do.
But but
Very,
but,
very hard to
but
do.
let me say this about what you're talking about though with the brotherhood though. Because as chefs we're vulnerable every day. People talking about food critics or beard awards and things like that, but we have customers every single day. We put food on that plate, it leaves our hands, and we are getting instant feedback from a person. At that moment in time. So our not only do we have to stand there for 10, 12 hours cooking. And it is a 10, 12 hours standing on your feet physical job. You get instant feedback from something that you created. And as you have that PR presence, that PR front facing, we're stepping out in the dining room talking to the people. And we're putting our vulnerabilities out there. So not only are you, talking about something at home or in your personal life you're doing, but as chefs, we do that on every single moment, every single day, every single
And,
time period.
and just imagine somebody like me who is moving around with a walker.
Mhm.
I'm moving around with a walker in the kitchen.
Moonwalking with a walker now, because I
Moonwalking
knew how you were moving before, bro. You moving
moonwalking with a
quite
walker.
different now.
So imagine I have a staff, I have a kitchen staff that's looking at me, and I'm trying to teach them, I'm trying to motivate them, I'm trying to get them to that space where they can do the job correctly. And me feeling vulnerable because they're looking at me and says, you know, can this chef do the job?
Right,
And
right,
then I have
right.
to, not only do I have to prove it to them, I have to prove it to myself that I can still cook and stand on my feet, with that walker inside the kitchen, and then go outside and talk to customers and for customers to see, hey, what is the chef with a walker doing in the kitchen cooking my food?
Yeah,
Those things go through your mind, and you're like, you know what? But I'm showing you that even with a certain disability, it's not putting me on the floor and stopping me from doing what I know I love how to do. And then when they taste my food,
yeah.
they
That's what
forget all about what they
thinking
saw.
about everything, right?
They forget everything about what they
Hey,
saw.
uh, so I don't
So,
care. This sucker was all doing jump rope or swimming on his back. This food is good.
but I'm gonna tell you this brotherhood that we have, you, Fabrice, with other chefs.
And sisterhood, because there's a
Most
lot of bad
important
sisters out here that are in this
I think it's
kitchen
the
with us.
most important thing that I have in my life other than my family,
Mm,
because you guys have given me the energy and you guys have told me this can't stop you. You got to keep doing what you do.
absolutely.
Um, and you calling me and say, "Hey chef, I need your help. I need your support. Come and do this book with me." Was a huge deal for me, especially what I was going through at the time.
Yeah,
And that gave me so much energy to say, you know what, excuse my French,
yeah.
F it.
Right. That's it.
you know
That's it.
for everybody that's out there, man, whatever it is that you're going through, saying I need help does not make you smaller. Saying that, you know letting somebody lend a hand to you or say, hey man, I got you, You don't have to do this alone. That can mean so much, so that you don't let you and I hate to use these words, but you don't let the devil do his job and take you to a place where you don't want to be.
I mean, Stefan, you know, you're really helping us wrap up this episode because it was, it's mental, health awareness month. It's something that's both dear to you and I. And again, this is the second episode of Roots Heart Soul podcast based on the book Roots Heart Soul by Todd Richard, Amy Condon, with wonderful chefs like Chef Stephan. And, you know, we're going to cover a whole bunch of topics, from food lifestyle, to, the diaspora, to everything that really talks about the roots, heart, soul of people. And that's why we're here. That's why we're broadcasting, live on all platforms. And we really thank everyone so much for joining us on Roots Heart Soul podcast on Heritage Radio Network. So, Stefan, go ahead and close us out because I'm ready for an evening cocktail and I got to get some more work done.
Subscribe to, first of all, if you want to listen to the podcast, Heritage Radio Network .org or at Heritage Radio Network on IG, at Chef Todd Richards on Instagram, on Facebook, at Chef Stephan.itayti on Instagram, Chef Stephan on Facebook. And we also have our brand new YouTube channel. So if you want to support us, if you want to connect with us, subscribe to our channel, listen to our podcast. If you're interested in joining us on this in this conversation, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. Roots Heart and Soul Podcast at gmail.com. You can connect with us there, and we would love to have you. We would love to have very deep discussions, not only about food, about culture, about about our people, but also people around the world, because we are all connected somehow. We all have a connection somehow, whether you're European or from Africa or from the Caribbean or from Latin America. There is a connection that we cannot deny. So join us next time, next Tuesday,
Next Tuesday, 7 p.m.
7 p.m. on the same channel.
Same channel.
Heritage Network Radio. Thank you for having us, having our podcast on your network, and to all interested sponsors, please get in touch with us. We would love to hear from you. We would love to.
I got a list of sponsors. Got to start with champagne, So let's get that champagne sponsor going. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Again, we're Todd and I are absolutely excited to put this podcast on, to talk about and celebrate our culture, but the culture that spawns from Africa all the way to the Caribbean, all the way to Haiti. Join us next time.
All right, my friend.
Roots,
talk to you.
Heart,
Roots and soul. Let's go.
And soul, baby.
Yeah.